Discovered my husband was having an affair with the intern, took his bags to the company and handed them to her in front of everyone. Update 5. By the time I reached my car, the adrenaline was wearing off. My hands trembled slightly as I inserted the key in the ignition. I'd done it. I'd faced them both down. I'd refused to be the silent, suffering wife. I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, and hardly recognized myself. Not because I looked different, but because I felt different, lighter, clearer, as if I'd shed a skin I'd outgrown long ago. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "How could you humiliate me like that? You've ruined everything." I deleted it without responding. She wasn't worth my time or energy anymore. Neither of them was. Instead, I drove to the waterfront park where Daniel had proposed all those years ago. I sat on a bench facing the ocean and watched the waves crash against the shore, each one receding, only to gather strength and return again and again, unstoppable, just like me. 1 year later, I stood in my new kitchen, morning sunlight streaming through windows that faced east instead of west. Different view, different life, better in ways I couldn't have imagined. On that day I wheeled suitcases into a boardroom and changed everything. The aftermath had been swift and comprehensive. Daniel was terminated for ethics violations the same day. Melissa was transferred to a different department, then quietly let go 3 months later during a restructuring. The divorce was finalized in record time. Daniel's lawyer advised him to agree to my terms rather than risk further exposure of his conduct. I sold the waterfront condo, too many ghosts there, and bought a charming craftsman house in a neighborhood I'd always loved, but Daniel had deemed not prestigious enough. I planted a garden, adopted a rescue dog, reclaimed spaces in my life that had been compressed to make room for Daniel's oversized ego and constant needs. My mother's death left a hole that would never completely heal, but I found myself talking to her often, especially in the garden. "You were right about him," I'd tell her as I pruned roses or pulled weeds. "You saw what I couldn't see." She had never openly criticized Daniel, but there had been moments, a tightening around her eyes when he checked his phone during family dinners, a concerned glance when he dismissed my opinions. She had known in that way mothers do. Professionally I thrived. My handling of my own situation had inadvertently become a calling card of sorts. Companies began seeking me out for consulting on ethics programs and harassment policies. The attorney who walks the walk. One client called me. I embraced the specialty, finding purpose in helping organizations create cultures where people like Daniel couldn't operate with impunity. As for children, I decided to pursue that dream on my own terms. I was in the early stages of the adoption process, excited about the possibility of becoming a mother without the shadow of Daniel's conditional love hanging over the experience. My phone chimed with a calendar reminder, lunch with Janet, my private investigator turned friend. We met monthly now, comparing notes on our respective fields and enjoying the easy camaraderie that had developed between us. As I gathered my things to leave, I caught sight of the small frame on my entryway table, a quote I'd had custom made after the divorce was final. "Sometimes the heaviest things we carry are the stories we never tell." I told my story loudly, publicly, unapologetically. And in doing so, I'd set down a burden I didn't even know I'd been carrying. The weight of others' expectations about how